Hi, and welcome to the Fernbridge Farm podcast. I'm Kelly.
And I'm Bob.
And you can find us on different platforms of social media, mostly Facebook and Instagram, as Fernbridge Farm, or at Fernbridge Farm, I guess I should say, technically. And our website is fernbridgefarm.com. And you can also find me if you want to check out any of my knitting projects. I tend to post those mostly on my personal Instagram and on Ravelry, which my Instagram is Kelly O Spins, and Ravelry you can follow me as Kelly Spins. And we'll put all of this in show notes, which we will link to down below. So you can find all of the things that we talk about in show notes if you have any questions. And feel free to reach out to us, and we will try to answer any questions as we go. Yes, so we haven't set up a Instagram account for Bob for all of his making, or a Ravelry account, but he's still working on a name for that. And
giving it way too much thought, I'm sure.
Yeah. Full disclosure, we did record an episode 2 a whole week ago, but our microphone did not record. We had a bit of technical troubles because it was totally on me. So we have a new microphone that actually works with the camera that we have, and I can see the little lines bouncing around, so I know that it's actually recording this time.
I was going to ask if this is technically our second or our third episode.
Right, well, it's technically our second because we didn't post the one where you can actually hear the sound.
We're like one of those sitcoms with the lost episode
that
never aired.
Yeah. I know, and so when I was getting ready for this, I was trying to remember. I was like, oh, but I already talked about that, and then I was like, well, I did. But not that anybody could hear, so...
Right. This is going to feel very redundant for us. It's hopefully all new news for all of you.
I know, so I'm going to try to not miss anything that I thought I already talked about, and I apologize if I talked about it in the first episode. I think we're good, because I kind of left all my stuff. It was pretty quick that I realized that it hadn't recorded any audio. So, and it may have to make some audio adjustments. Yeah, it's not too bad. I'll try not to yell so that it doesn't spike the little audio thing. So, yeah. So, what are we going to do today? So, we're going to talk a little bit about the farm and why I chose Shetland sheep. And we're going to talk about an incident on the farm, and we've got a pretty good making section to talk about. Bob has been busy making.
Well, it's been 3 weeks, so
it's been 3 weeks. I know it was going to be 2 weeks, but then again we had our little glitch. But it gave him more time to get some more stuff done. And I should grab that yarn that I got for you if you like it. You can at least show it, and then we can put if you choose to use it for your next project. And then so we're got a lot of stuff in making to talk about, and then we're gonna talk a little bit about some different products in the shop that I've got, in case you're interested and you want to see what we're up to at Fernbridge Farm, and my other business, the Cranky Sheep. Some of you who have been watching me for a while know about that one too, but I thought I would show a few things from there, and I've got a whole bunch of brand new stripy sock yarn for that business too, so, which I didn't bring any of that, but I'll show it next time maybe. And so let me go grab that yarn, and then we can carry on with talking about the sheep.
Sure.
So before we dive into our farm talk about, well, it's gonna still be farm talk. Farm talk about
we're gonna do we'll do the strategic.
Yeah.
That's the long-term strategic, and then just the kind of what's been going on more recently, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I don't know about where you guys are, but it's been cold here. We've had a couple of really nasty cold snaps. Everybody's come through it okay. Sheep are holding up well.
Yeah, we were 15 below yesterday morning.
Yeah.
That was the coldest that we've seen air temperature wise. We had what, 20, 30 below.
Just before the other podcast we had, before we attempted to record it, we'd had a night of where our little at-home weather station recorded 30 below wind chills. So the sheep stayed in that day.
They did. They did. Because I've got a couple of my ewes that actually get a little bit chilly. One of them, her fleece grows in slower. And so she gets a little bit chilly, but just staying, they're really not big fans of being out in the wind anyway. So they typically will come inside if it's really windy, unless it's in the summer, and then they enjoy it because it keeps the bugs off of them, which I totally appreciate because I think I am part sheep. I love the cold and I hate the bugs and the hot weather, so I understand where they're coming from. But yeah, so we have been we've been doing a lot of preparations and things for kind of keeping everything good during the really cold weather. I have to definitely do more water trips. So I've got basically 3 groups of sheep. I've got the ewes, and then I've got the lambs from last year, and then I've got the boys, the rams, and there's some wethers with them too. And so the ewes and the lambs have 2 separate spaces within the barn, so we can actually have heated buckets for them. The boys have their own little mini barn. We call it the ramshackle, and Bob built it last year. So all the rams and everything, the rams and 2 rams and 2 wethers are out there at the moment, and that's a really nice little space for them, but we don't have power out there right now, so they don't have a heated bucket. So I'm definitely kind of bringing them water multiple times throughout the day. And the chickens too, if it gets really super cold, we've got heat lamps for the chickens, but we try not to use those too often unless the weather is going to be really cold, like this negative teens and single digits and wind chills, crazy wind chills that we've had. So we're bringing them water multiple times too, because they drink so much water when they're laying eggs, and all of our chickens are laying eggs right now. We're getting we've got 23 chickens, and we're getting usually 16 to 18 eggs a day. So
and their coops close up pretty well.
Yeah, they do. Bob built both of their coops. I think we talked about that in the first podcast a bit. The first episode that we did about the different coops, and at some point we'll do a little tour. Not right now, it's kind of cold, so we won't have them all opened up and everything.
I didn't realize we're heading below 0 again tonight.
Oh, tonight
for air temperature. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I didn't either. I was surprised when I watched the news.
Yeah, because it was actually snowing, and a lot of times we get the cloud cover.
Actually quite nice today.
So when we have the cloud cover, it usually doesn't drop, but maybe it's going to clear off. So I hadn't seen that. So, but anyway, so that's what we've been doing around here. Mostly just kind of managing things because of the extra cold temperatures. And I saw a report not too long ago that said that towards the end of the month it was going to be the temperatures are going to be above normal.
They're saying February is going to be warmer, so.
Yeah, so
fingers crossed.
We'll see. I don't know, but
it'll be what it'll be.
Yeah, we can't change it.
I still like the Mark Twain quote. Everybody complains about the weather, but nobody does anything about it.
Yeah, so we make the best of it. We've got really good warm clothes, and we put them on. It was funny, we were actually talking about that the other morning when we were walking in. It was that really cold morning. You're like, it was calm.
Very calm, though.
It was very calm.
15 below, but calm.
And we were both, bundled up, and he was walking. He had to go out to his shop for something, and he said, and I was walking back to the house, and he's like, geez, he's like, I could stay on this bundled up like this for quite a while. And I was like, I know, it's actually not too bad. And the sun came out. The sun was out that day. It was Saturday.
I may look like a bad Carhartt ad from the 1990s, but I'm warm.
I know, it's really funny because your Carhartt is like their light rusty brown, and I'm like Carhartt in the very dark brown. So we're quite the pair. We must look like quite the pair, all bundled up out there. So that's the latest on the weather, which one of the incidents really is slightly related to the weather, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. So one of the things that we figured we'd talk to you a little bit about today was our decision on the breed of sheep that we chose. And if you've been following us, you'll know that we have Shetland sheep. And there are so many fantastic sheep breeds out there. It was a really hard decision to kind of narrow it down to one. And I'm not saying that we will always stay with just one, but to get started, it's definitely nice having one to focus on and, know the characteristics of that particular breed and really study the registry and know the lines and things like that, which I'm still in the process of doing because there is a lot to it. So the reason that I chose Shetland is they have some really wonderful characteristics. They're considered a primitive breed, so they've retained a lot of their like natural instincts, and which as a new shepherd makes things a lot, I don't know, friendlier. So they're
a little better about the self-care than a lot of breeds, right?
They are. They really can take care of themselves quite well without a lot of farmer or shepherd interaction. I'm out there multiple times throughout the day and doing things for them, obviously feeding them water, giving them water, and just checking on them and observing them. I think observation is key to having really happy, healthy animals. Just knowing that, learning their personalities, you can pick up on things so much quicker if they're off just a little bit. So if you can pick up on them being a little under the weather that much quicker, you can usually bring a lot of the, if they're coming down with some sort of illness or they're whatever it is, you can catch it that much quicker if you know that they're feeling a little bit off. So a lot of times we'll just spend time sitting with them and watching them and learning what's normal for them, so that if I see something that doesn't look normal behavior, then it's really, really helpful. But besides that, so Shetlands are fantastic moms. They lamb typically fairly easily without a lot of input or need of help or assistance. They typically have twins, but they can have singles and they can have triplets as well. So we had a ewe who gave birth to twins on the farm last year, and she was our one and only pregnant ewe. We bred 2 ewes last year, but she was the only one that settled. And she was a first-time mom, and she did a fantastic job. We didn't have to do anything. We were there, and we kind of stood back and let her do what she needed to do, but nursing was great, and, she took care of the lambs and was a really great mom. So, and from other shepherds that raise Shetlands, that's something that I hear quite a lot from them, is that they very rarely have to step in and lend a hand. So, that's definitely a big plus for a new shepherd.
And she didn't want us there for the births.
No, she didn't. She actually, so I saw signs of pre-labor the night before she went into labor. So it was around 6 o'clock. I could tell she was in pre-labor. So I have a baby monitor actually that reaches out to our barn. So we were able to, keep an eye on her on the screen, which was really great for her because she's pretty shy. She's a pretty shy ewe and doesn't really like a lot of people being around and a lot of hands-on interaction, she will kind of shy away from you. So that was really helpful. So I set my alarm so that I could, wake up every, couple of hours and check and make sure that, she was doing okay. So, and that's a nice thing. I didn't have to get dressed and put on all my layers and go out there and check on her. Because last spring was pretty chilly here. She ended up having her lambs on April 23rd. But it was April 22nd when she was in pre-labor, and about just after 2:00 in the morning on April 23rd, we saw the babies coming, the lambs coming. So we went out and she delivered her first lamb.
Before we got there, right?
As I was coming in, he was dropping. Yep. And she knew what to do and took care of him. And we had the vet come earlier, and we knew that she had twins because she could see at least 2 embryos when she did the ultrasound. And so we waited and we're like, okay, something's going to happen. But she stopped active labor, and so we were like, oh. So we actually came back inside, and as soon as we did...
No sooner. I mean, it was...
As soon as we did, she went back into active labor, and we were watching the whole time on the camera, and we could see that she was going to deliver another lamb. So, and I've heard that too, that there are some ewes who, that are kind of shy, and they don't want people around when they're delivering. So she delivered 2 very healthy. They were both about 5 pounds, just about 5 pounds. The lambs were, and she did a great job raising them. So they're both still here on the farm. We had a little ram lamb, and we did weather him because he is related to just about everybody on the farm. So we didn't want to use him for breeding, but he's got a fantastic fleece. It's super dense and just really a nice fleece. And so that's Jensen. And then Juniper, his twin sister, she's quite the little spunky thing. She's very independent little ewe. So they did great. And then the other thing about Shetlands that's really quite nice is they're great at converting the forage that they eat, the grasses and the weeds and everything, into energy, even more so than a lot of the sheep that are more heavily managed and being used for meat or commercial fiber production. So they can get by with some pretty scrubby stuff. They love grass too, but they actually certain times of the year really prefer more scrubby kinds of forage. And to browse, so that's great because we don't have to feed them quite as much as some other breeds because they're great at finding things that they like. We're careful about things that are growing in the pasture. I will go out and do pasture walks multiple times throughout the year and make sure there's nothing growing out there that they shouldn't be eating, because there are some things that can cause some issues for them, but it's not too bad. But they're helping bring our pastures back. I had horses for years, and horses are really hard on the land. They compact the soil with their feet, and their manure doesn't break down as readily, and they actually will graze right down to the very base of the plant. And sheep are fantastic. We're doing rotational grazing, and they graze it down to about 3 or 4 inches. And then once it's there, we rotate them out, and they do that along as they move. It looks like a nicely manicured
It always
lawn.
Surprises me to walk through the area they've just come off of, and it looks mown.
Yeah, so it's pretty interesting, and their little feet are nice and pointy, and they are good at aerating the soil, and their manure breaks down because it's pellets. It breaks down quite quickly, and it's drier. So, they're adding their nutrients back in, and so...
And the chickens are part of that, too. So a lot of times what we'll do, we'll move the chickens onto the part of the pasture that the sheep just came off of.
Yeah.
And they also do a lot of scratching.
Yep. Helps with parasite load, reducing that. And that's another thing about Shetlands. They're somewhat resistant to a number of the parasites that are plaguing other breeds of sheep. So they're great at building up some of that parasite resistance. So I'm not, I definitely monitor them for parasites, and on occasion we'll have to deworm them. But it's not nearly as frequent as some breeds of sheep. So that's another big bonus for having a nice primitive breed. And they're closely related to Icelandic sheep. So that's another great breed that, if you're looking to do some sheep of your own sometime, then that's a really nice breed. And there are some others of those kind of northern island sheep that the Vikings kind of distributed throughout the different islands, that are very similarly related, but because they all developed very isolated on these islands, they developed different characteristics. So the breed standard for Shetlands is interesting because it allows everything from, a double-coated, coarser fleece all the way up through a really fine fleece Shetland. And we actually have mostly like a medium wool and the fine fleece Shetland here. We do have one ewe who does have a double coat. But it's really interesting to see the variations in the fleece quality. So we're going to be breeding for that fleece quality and conformation. Those are the two most important things to us on the farm. Fleece quality, we want to have some great products. So that we did bring in some of the fine fleece Shetlands because we want to have, some really nice soft fleeces that you can wear next to skin if you want to, but it's also great for outer garments and mittens, hats, socks, whatever you can think of, you can do with Shetland, and it's really versatile. And that's another reason that I really like the Shetland wool. And the other great thing about Shetlands is they've retained 11 natural colors, so you can get such great variation just before you even dye the yarn with all of those colors. And sometimes you'll see some of the Fair Isle sweaters done with just the 11 natural colors of Shetland that you still see. And there's over 30 different recognized patterns or markings, I should say. So you can get, polka dotted and striped sheep. So
zebra sheep.
And so it's kind of interesting. So one of my ewes actually, and you'll see a picture of her in a minute, but she has polka dots on her face. She's really cute. And she's really lovely. She's got a black face with gray polka dots on her face. And then her sister actually is fine colored and has a polka dot on her, kind of on her rump, but it's not that much darker than the rest of her fleece. So a lot of times the only time you see it is actually after she's freshly shorn. You'll see it, closer to the skin because it's darker, closer to the skin, but then the rest of it kind of fades as it grows out. So it is kind of interesting, all the different markings and colors and everything that you get from them. And I have a couple books on color genetics, sheep color genetics, and it's really fascinating the differences that you can get between some of the breeds. But Shetlands are kind of unique for some of their markings and patterns that you see. There are some of the other breeds that show those as well, but so I've been reading as much as I can on it. I still have a lot to learn. That was another reason that they're kind of intriguing to me. So they are smaller. We typically get, the adults, full-grown adults, will get like a 3 or 4 pound fleece from them. The babies, their first fleeces, the lamb fleeces, are typically between 1 pound and 1.5 pounds, depending on the different animal. But the one thing that we have noticed with ours is we've been able to shear not all of them, but most of them twice a year. So even though they're a smaller yield as far as the fiber goes, some of them, some of our ewes, and actually a couple of our boys, our rams and our wethers, they're producing a really thick, dense, beautiful, long fleece. And, if we get 3 or 4 pounds twice a year, that's, kind of building us up to what some of the other flocks are getting once a year. So we typically shear them when their fleece is at least 3 inches long, and then we try not to go more than like 6 inches. Some of the mills have issues if it gets up towards like 7 or 8 inches long. So that's kind of where we try to stay in between. And we actually, little Tilly, you'll see a picture of her. If we didn't shear her twice a year, her fluff would just keep on growing. That girl can grow a fleece. Oh my goodness.
I floated that idea this morning. I wonder what Tilly would look like after a year of not being shorn.
I know, yeah, because we sheared in March of last year and then again in September. And by the time September came around again, I mean, her fleece was already a good 6 inches long. She's definitely a producer. So she doesn't have the finest fleece, but when we start kind of putting the fleeces together, we can kind of mitigate that a little bit by putting hers with a little bit softer fleeces. But then again, because hers is so much longer, I have to be a little bit careful of that too when I'm putting fleeces together. I try to match fleece length and fiber and all of that. So, but our batches of yarn and fleece and roving are going to be definitely getting softer. A lot of the sheep that we started with were more the medium micron counts for our wool, or a little bit thicker. So and I really like the yarn that we ended up getting, but it's going to get even softer from here on out, because we did bring in those fine fleece genetics, and we're going to be using those. We're up to 20 sheep now.
But even Tilly's fleece, right? I mean, that it may not feel the finest compared to a Greta or some of the others, Helen and Harriet, but the Spicer hat that I showed in our first episode, I knit out of Tilly's fleece, and I have no problem wearing that. Against the skin or against my head. And somewhat depends a little bit on sensitivity to wool. Like, I'm not terribly sensitive to wearing wool. That's good.
It's great. I know. I have some Icelandic sweaters. A lot of the Icelandic because they may not take all of the guard hairs out, like the Lopi style yarns. So those have a tendency to feel kind of scratchy. But those don't really bother me, and ours is not. Ours isn't even there, because ours doesn't have the guard hairs in it, because we have that one double coated sheep. But I actually don't put her fleeces in with anybody else's. I'm going to process hers by hand so that I can separate the double coat. Anyway, so that's kind of. In a nutshell, a really big nutshell, that's why I've decided to go with Shetlands. And as I mentioned, it may not be the only breed we decide to do, but for now, that's kind of what we're getting started with. And we've got a number of different friends who are shepherds and farmers that have a number of different breeds. So, if it's something down the road we decide we want to pursue, taking on another breed of sheep as well as the Shetlands, because I think they're always going to hold a special place in our hearts, then that may be something that we do. So I have a few friends who keep saying, you should get alpaca, they're really cute. So
I currently have a crush on Romneys.
Yes, Romneys. They are quite cute. And actually, the sweater that I'm knitting that I'll show you in making, I mentioned it before, that that friend of ours, the shepherd, she has Romneys and Border Leicesters. So, well, Bob said, when you drop off the sweater, can we go visit the, can we visit the sheep, the Romney? So, she has really lovely Romneys and Border Leicesters. So, that would be a fun little field trip.
Yeah.
All right, so that kind of covers the sheep part of it. Well, except for our farm incident.
Yeah, should we talk about poor Tuk Tuk?
Yeah, so we have 3 rams on the farm, actually 3 wethers as well. So in preparation for the really cold weather, a couple weeks ago, I was moving some of the sheep around. I wanted to make sure that everybody could be in a place where they were really nice and snuggled together and really nice and toasty warm. So I decided to move the little lamb that I have. He's about 8 months old, in with the other boys that were there. He was with Jensen, who's a little wether. He's our young little wether. And he's been with the big boys before, and they've gotten along great. But I moved him in, and they were doing fine. They were kind of just checking each other out and being like, oh yeah, I remember you, okay. And he decided that he was going to pick a fight with the biggest ram in the pen.
So for a little perspective, Tucker may weigh 50 pounds soaking wet, but
Maybe.
probably
He's
not.
probably about 45 pounds. He's a little guy. He's 8 months old, and he's little.
And Pele weighs literally probably close to 2.5 times that anyway. I mean,
Yeah.
Pele's probably 120.
Yeah, he's probably
He's
about
a
120.
big boy.
Yeah, he's a big guy. He's our biggest ram for sure, and he's got the big, beautiful, like, spiral horns. So if you
Spoiler alert, Tucker lost.
yeah, actually, I've got a really nice picture of Pele on our Instagram account. So if you want to see him, you can. But little Tucker, he actually doesn't have full horns. He's what they call a skur. So in Shetlands, it's perfectly acceptable for the breed registry for them to either have horns or have skurs, which are shorter, smaller horns that aren't going to be the full big horns, or to be pulled, which means they don't have any horns at all. And so he's what they call a skur. So he has these wee little horns, and they're not going to get terribly big. And actually the wethers, their horns stay fairly small because they don't have the testosterone, so they're not going to keep producing these really big, massive horns like the rams will, the full rams will. So little Tucker, with his wee little horns, decides to take on Pele with these big, giant horns, and they're just butting heads. And little Tuk Tuk broke one of his wee little horns. And unfortunately, kind of like clipping a dog's quick, when they break a horn, it bleeds profusely. So I mostly got the blood stopped. I got him inside. I brought him inside, but I wanted to make sure that there wasn't any other damage, because that where it broke off very, very close to the head, and the sinus, the sheep's sinus, actually runs very close to where the horns attach. So I ended up having the vet come out. It was a Sunday, and thankfully she doesn't live terribly far from us, and so she came out and she did cauterize a couple places that were still bleeding some, but we got that stopped up, and the good news is he's doing great today. So he's healing, and we did have to keep him isolated so that he wouldn't pick a fight with anybody else and kind of open that back up again until he started getting some growth and tissue and things to cover that. So he still does actually have this wee little...
He's one horn short.
Yeah.
He looks lopsided.
He does look lopsided. But he does have... There is just a little bit of that horn left on very top of his head. So if he bumps into something, there is some protection there for any of the tissues that are healing. So the vet was actually very pleased that did stay like that, and so that he does have protection. The other good news is it's not in the middle of summer where you have to worry about flies and
infection,
and major infections and things. I did keep an eye out for that, just to make sure that he didn't have any nasal discharge or any kind of infections because of that. So but he's healing up great, and he's gonna go back out. We're gonna get little Jensen back out with him, and so he's in the barn, and he's been the best little guy.
Little champ.
He is one of the friendliest, best little rams ever. He's just kind of chill and hanging out, and he sees me coming and going, and he's in the barn, so he hears the activity of the other sheep, and he knows he's not alone, and he loves his grain, so he looks forward to feeding time every day. And they don't get very much grain at all because they do really well at converting that forage, so they get a little bit of grain, and as the ewes progress in their pregnancies, the grain will be getting upped as well, so they have a little bit of extra calories as the lambs are developing inside. So but anyway, so that's what happened with little Tucker. He's good, and
other than the weather, that was our excitement.
That was our excitement on the farm. We can do without the excitement, but unfortunately, that's one of those things that you kind of have to deal with farming. And this is Shu, by the way.
Shu, by the way.
So she's quite friendly, as you can see, and loves lots of attention. So so that's kind of what's been happening on the farm in the barn. And I think, are we ready to move on to making?
Sure.
So you've been very busy.
I actually have.
And I've been pretty busy, especially since last time that we talked. But let me tell you about what I am wearing. I'm wearing a sweater that's, the pattern is called Little Twigs by Melody Hoffman. And anybody that is coming to this from watching me on the Muscle of Yarn podcast, you will know that I wear this sweater nonstop. It is like my sweatshirt sweater, my go-to nearly daily sweater, because it's really comfortable, it fits well, I can just throw it on and it's warm. And the yarn that I use is Wing and a Prayer from All the Single Ladies. So there's actually we have 4 ewes from Tammy. So
4 ewes.
Yeah, Tammy.
And Pele the ram.
Yeah.
Pele the big ram.
There wouldn't be any Pele fiber in here, or boy fiber, because this is all from the ewes, all the single ladies. Shetland, it's 100% Shetland, that Tammy, she's a friend of ours, has produced. Green Mountain Spinnery spins it, and it's similar, if you've ever used their mountain mohair, it's kind of similar to that. It doesn't have any mohair in it because it is just 100% Shetland, but it is that kind of single ply like that, and it's a great yarn. It's a really lovely yarn. I really enjoy working with it. I actually have another sweater that just needs sleeves out of this the same yarn, and so that's what I'm wearing this time. And do you want to talk about what you're wearing?
Sure.
It's also an FO.
Now that Shu has left, makes it a little easier. Frees up my hands.
Yeah.
So I am wearing, and we introduced this last time in the first episode, so I did finish, or did I start and finish? See, this is what I can't remember, is where we talked about the gathering hat. I honestly don't remember from the first episode whether I had even
I don't think you had started it. No, I don't
Maybe
think
not.
you had.
Anyway, whether I started it, I did finish it. So this is, I think we showed the pattern last time. So this was Kate Solomon's gathering hat. I have since fallen in love with chunky yarn because it knits up fairly quickly.
His laps go much faster.
My laps go much faster. So I need to find a kinder where I usually refer to my knitting as slow or glacial or, I don't know, methodical. Is that a friendlier word to refer to my
methodical? That's definitely describes you more too.
There we go. Yep. So again, I have the little wrapper here somewhere. So this was I used the Juniper Moon Farm Moonshine Chunky. It's alpaca wool and silk. So that went really well. Probably in a perfect world, I could have gone a couple of rows more to get a little bit more ear coverage, but it's a good little around the house, keep the head warm on a cooler day hat. So I've been enjoying wearing this. And then we had one more skein. You had one more skein?
Yep.
And with all that cold weather, so I was kind of jealous. Kelly was kind of bragging about the benefits of wearing a cowl, which I don't think I had ever worn a cowl in my life, but out there doing chores when the wind chill is 30 below.
It's so nice having something to keep the wind, especially the back of your neck, to keep the wind off, and you can tuck a cowl down into your coat or whatever you're wearing, and then you can actually meet the back of it with your hat, so there's like no gaps. And when the wind chill is 30 below, you want as little skin as possible showing. Like, I think I had about this much of my skin showing.
I think honestly, when we came in the other morning after I had finished this and first wore it, when it was 15 below the other morning, I think honestly my neck was colder inside after I took this off than it was outside when I had it on. So the story here is we don't have a pattern that I can point to and say this is so-and-so's such and such a named pattern. I can tell you that this was also the same Juniper Moon Farm Moonshine Chunky. I'll learn it one of these days. Although I guess I don't have to because unfortunately it's discontinued. But
it is.
Anyway, we went on to Ravelry, I guess, right? And you opened up the cowl section, and I said, I like this about this one and that about that one. And Kelly wrote up a real simple pattern for me to follow. And I like the way it came out. So
Nice
I don't know if it'll show up, but it's obviously ribbed at the top and at the bottom. I think I just did a 2x2 if I remember correctly. And then in the middle, a little bit of texture there. Which I think came out really well. Lots of switching back and forth between knitting and purling. But it knit up fairly quickly by my standards anyway, and did turn out to be super warm. So that was kind of a win.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been doing. So this I just finished. What's today? Sunday.
Yep.
I think I finished this Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
And between Saturday and today, I did not cast anything else on. So I have nothing for work in progress, but I have 2 finished projects that I'm pretty happy with.
Yeah.
For various reasons.
You should be. You did a great job. His tension. He does such a good job with his tension and his knitting. His stitches.
And right on cue.
The quality of his stitches. I mean, he's only to finish like maybe 4 or 5 projects, and like the quality of his stitches, because he's very methodical. We'll use that good word.
If you hadn't worked it back in, I was going to.
We'll use that methodical good word. With his knitting, his stitches are all very, very even. He's a scientist by trade, so he's got that very like.
But I probably should have been an engineer.
Right. Yeah. But he's got that kind of analytical, methodical brain, so I think it comes very naturally to him. So he's very precise with his stitches, but it looks great. He did a fabulous job with it. So
I think we're gonna write that one up and probably post it as a pattern.
Yeah.
Somewhere. You know more about that than I do. I now know what the pattern is, but how it gets from concept out to the rest of the world. So we'll name it. We'll write it up. And
we've been talking about names. Why does that have to be one of the hardest things to do? Like naming something. It's really hard, but we'll think of something. But if you have good names for it,
there you go.
Let us know.
We'll take suggestions.
It has texture on it.
Here, I'll show it one more time.
You hand it to me. I'm a little closer. So, all right. So that's it. Check out the texture on there and tell us what you think it should be named in the comments. Or you can message us, whatever you want to do. But give us some suggestions, because we're happy to take them.
We need a marketing department.
We'll get Paul right on that. So, all right. So you're done?
I am done with finished. We can talk about upcoming later, right?
Okay. Yep. We can do that. So I've got all kinds of finished things.
Here, let me help you.
Okay. You can reach them. So I'll show you the few finished things that I have done out of our farm yarn. I did that trunk show. Well, you may not know. I did a trunk show back at Must Love Yarn on Small Business Saturday in November. And I sold a bunch of our yarn. We don't have very much of it left, but we'll have another batch after spring shearing. We'll have another batch back. So anyway, this is one of the hats that I did. Let's see if we can get it to focus on there. Hopefully the light doesn't blow it out too much. So this is the Oban. Is it Oban?
Oban, yep.
Oban hat. Scotch. So it's a Baby Cocktails Theo Coleman pattern, and it just took one skein of our Fernbridge Farm Royal Worsted yarn. That's what I called our very first yarn that was made. And it was a quick knit. I think I did it in a day, less than a day, whatever, something like that. And it's got these really pretty cables, and there is a matching sweater with this too that's really lovely, and it has that same cable-y pattern on it. So
that would take somebody methodical a lot longer than one day.
Yes, it probably would.
Besides the fact you'd have to teach him cables.
Teach him cables. You'd be fine with cables.
I know you were trying to talk me into cables and my cowl, and I politely declined for now.
For now, I think you'd be fine with that though. And then this is another hat that I did out of some of our yarn. This is a little pattern that I did. It's called Changing Seasons. I haven't published the pattern yet, but I am. The pattern is available for free if you buy 2 of our skeins or more, whatever you want to buy, of our yarn. I won't limit you to 2. If you end up buying more than that, I will send you the pattern. So it just takes 2 colors, and it's just a little bit of color work with the color shifting in there, and Changing Season was kind of appropriate because of the colors that I picked. So these are naturally dyed yarns that I dyed our farm yarn. So yeah, that is that one. And then the last finished object that I have is this sweater. And this sweater does not have a name yet.
I'm noticing a theme here.
It's just a quick, easy, top-down raglan, chunky weight sweater. Chunky, see? You could do this.
I could do that.
Chunky weight sweater that I designed for a class that I'm going to be teaching. It's a Knit Your First Sweater class. It was really funny. I went out looking for just a basic top-down raglan in a chunky for the class because we only have a month that the class runs over. So I wanted chunky so that the students could, if not finish, get a really good grasp on all the skills that they would need to do their sweater. And chunky would kind of fit that bill. I probably could do a worsted, but if people are methodical with their knitting, then they
it's the word of the day, I think.
Then they may not be able to finish, certainly, or get very far with a worsted weight sweater. So and when I went looking for one, I really couldn't find just a basic one. Maybe there's one out there, maybe you guys know of one, but anyway, I ended up writing a pattern for just a basic one, and I've graded it, so I think I've got, I don't know, 7 or 8 different sizes that it comes in. So and I haven't actually written it yet. I've got the spreadsheet that has all the numbers in it, and then I just have to kind of flesh that out and actually write the pattern with all the pretty words and verbiage and what to do. So
K's and P's and
the K's and P's,
SSK's
and yeah. So anyway, this is a Taki yarn. It is, I think it's actually just called like Chunky Merino Superwash or something like that. I have the ball band downstairs, and of course, did I grab it? No, but I will put it in show notes so that you will know. As I mentioned, the pattern isn't available yet. It's something that I'm gonna be finishing up writing. So if it is something that's of interest to you, then it will be available hopefully soon, and I will of course let you know when it's available. But yeah, just a really super quick knit, very easy, very cozy, and kind of basic but fun. So, and I thought it would be a good one for people who are going to be taking my class. So I actually just finished up a Tunisian crochet class. That was a lot of fun. I always love teaching that class because it's something that not really a lot of people know about or have any idea how to do. You know, and it's kind of a mixture between crochet and knitting, and there's elements of both in it, but it's also very, very different from both. And that is a class that I did just finish, but I've got this sweater knitting class, I've got an intro to knitting socks, and then for anybody who might be a brand new knitter, I've got an intro to knitting class. And all of those I'm doing, teaching locally in person at CVU Access. CVU is a local high school if you're not from here. And they have this really great after, in the evening kind of educational program, and it's geared towards adults and people in the community, not just students. And there's some really great classes. I've done a number of them throughout that, including beekeeping, because I'm hoping to add bees to the farm at some point soon. If not this year, then maybe next year, although it's getting close for this year, for having to get them ordered and whatnot. But anyway, I digress, as I usually do. And so if you're interested in taking one of the classes and you're local, you can go to our website. There's a link for classes and events on our website, and then it will take you to the CVU Access website, and you can read about the different classes, not just mine, but everybody else's too. There's some fabulous ones, and you can register right through them. So a link's on our website, and I'll put a link in our show notes as well, so that you can go right to that page. So that is it for FOs.
Cool. So upcoming, or do you want to do whip?
I can talk about my whips.
You've got whip.
I've got a couple quick whips. A super quick whip. I was feeling the need to do some crocheting, so I just started a wee little granny square. It's just from some yarn that I've had in stash, so it's kind of fun. You don't really have to think about it. You just kind of go. So I like doing granny squares, and I know it's very plain, but I've got some blue that I'm gonna add in at some point. So I've got that little granny square on the go. And then the other thing, you did see it last time, the Asti Spumante sweater, and it's another Thea Coleman pattern. And of course I'm in the middle of a row, so it's going to be kind of hard to show you. But the good news is I have completely finished the front. I am making progress on this, and I am going to get it done.
She has been plugging away.
So I have the front. Look at that. Look at that nice neck shaping going on. Yep. It's coming together. So the front is done. So it's knit from the bottom up, and then when you get to the where the armholes are, you actually split and work the front and back separately. So you end up working, once you get to the neckline, you work the separate fronts separately. So you have the left front and the right front. But it's a nice kind of scoop neck sweater. And here's the back. I'm coming along on that, but I'm right in the middle of a row, so of course, because I was making banana bread and the timer went off and I had to run, and Bob said, how can you just leave it in the middle of the row? But I'm a professional. I've been doing this for a long time. Just kidding. Well, not really. So anyway, that's my works in progress.
That's your works in progress.
That's what I'm working on. Oh, I had some finishing So I do quite a lot of finishing. I don't know if I talked about this in the first episode or if it was the one that we actually...
I don't know if you did.
I do finishing and private lessons and things like that. So I've got a number of clients that have been using my services for a while to finish baby sweaters, to do some steeking, installing zippers, weaving in ends, sewing up sweaters. So that is something that I do. So if it's something that you do not like doing, it is a service that I offer. And for anybody that's interested, I have price lists available and can send you those. And even if you're further away, we can certainly do things through the mail. I know there's a number of companies, services that do that through the mail. So just throwing that out there if anybody's interested. I love doing finishing work, but not everybody does. That's why I love to be able to offer that to people that don't want to. So, but definitely reach out to me if it is something that would be of interest to you. And like I said, private lessons and teaching and other stuff. I've been staying busy with that. It's a lot of fun. I've got a few clients that I've been doing some regular private lessons with, and that's always fun. Especially because now that I'm on the farm pretty much full time, if I wasn't doing the private lessons and things, it would be rare for me to see other people. So I really do enjoy doing that, doing the classes and private lessons, because
which even those of us who are self-described introverts do like to get out and see other humans once in a while.
It's definitely good to do it. So that's my whips. I have a possible upcoming project. Actually, I've got a couple, but I'm only going to talk about one of them today. And you have a potential upcoming project too.
Yeah, so I think we actually talked about this a little bit the first time, but we've made a little bit of progress, and welcome back, Shu, maybe. Yeah, so I think we've made a little bit of progress in the sense that we have at least bought yarn. So it was another Kate Solomon pattern that I had talked about the first time, the common. Of course, I didn't bring the
common hat.
Didn't bring the pattern, but the common hat. So Kelly was out and came home with some yarn for me.
Potential yarn. So I told him that he doesn't have to use it.
No, I'm using it. I'm all in.
You're all in. Okay.
So yeah, I liked. So on the green, I saw the hat on the Green Mountain Spinnery Instagram page, and actually really liked one of the color combinations. I think there were a few different color combinations.
There were some solids. There were some different color combinations. Yeah.
Shown in the post. This was probably a month or so ago now.
Yeah, they actually released a bunch of patterns available for free. So
yeah, so it was kind of a mustard colored band at the bottom with kind of a cranberry colored rest of the hat. And Kelly brought me home some more Juniper Moon Farm. I'm sensing I'm sensing another theme.
Yeah, it's a really nice little company. So I stopped at Must Love Yarn and kind of browsed around to see what they had available for colors that he'd be interested in, and they did have these two colors that I thought might work for him. So I brought them home and I said, no pressure, but if you like them, you're welcome to use them. And so
I don't know if the color picked up well there, but they are kind of a mustard and a cranberry, a lot like what was shown in the post. So this is their Santa Cruz Merino, 100% wool. So we'll see. I would imagine by the next time we do one of these and get all the technical pieces right in the podcast, and you actually get to see one, that there will probably be some progress there. So that is probably the next thing that I'm going to work on.
Yeah.
And I haven't gotten any further than that, project-wise. I do not have usually more than one thing in the hopper. Even the cowl was kind of a whim, so we had the yarn, and like I said, I was jealous of your warmth on the cold mornings and evenings, so just kind of
it's definitely nice.
Impulse knit. Is impulse knitting a thing?
Oh, sure. Why not?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's my first impulse knit.
Your first impulse knit. It's usually impulse yarn buying for me, but
When I bring up a project and you keep coming upstairs with more yarn, then yes, I get the sense there has been some impulse yarn buying. That's okay.
No, but I have a pretty good curated selection of yarns. Every once in a while I'm like, why on earth did I buy this? But that's not very often. So I'm going to keep plugging away on my Asti Spumante. Well, it's not mine. It's for our friend that has the Romneys and Border Leicesters. And so I'm going to keep plugging away on that and really focus on that. So the project that I want to knit may not happen for a little bit, but it's a really cute sweater. It's actually by Melody Hoffman, who designed the little twigs, which I'm wearing. And it's a new pattern that she released not too long ago, and it's called Wildflower's Path. And that is it. And I will link to this in show notes so you can get a better look at it on your own computer screen. So it's this really pretty sweater with some texture along the top, and then it actually has some little embroidered flowers on it that you go back and do once the sweater is done. And it is knit with the Lopi, the Pluto Lopi, which is the their unspun yarn. And I've never worked with the Pluto Lopi before. I've worked with the Let Lopi, which is the light Lopi. It's actually similar in weight to all the single ladies. And the Alphos Lopi, which is the bulky Lopi. And so I've worked with both of those, but I've never worked with the unspun Pluto Lopi. So I am actually going to knit this in the yarn that the designer used. So I have these little cakes of Pluto Lopi in this really pretty gold color. So, and I got this from Woolly Thistle over in New Hampshire. So she's got a really good selection of European, a lot of like Northern European yarns, and yarns from Britain. And so that's what my upcoming project is going to be at some point. I don't know when that is going to be, but yeah.
Cool.
Is that the end of making? I think we covered everything.
That's the end of making. Yeah.
I think I'm looking around, but I think that's all the making stuff.
Cool. Want to talk about a few things you got in the shop?
Yeah, so shop stuff. These actually, so I've been selling actually a lot of hand-spun yarn, and I have to actually put these physically in the online shop because I don't think they're all in there yet. Because I cranked out a whole bunch, as much as I could before the trunk show that I did, just to have some variety of things. And so not everything made it into the online shop, but I did have some available for the trunk show. But I do a lot of hand spun, and it's quite popular because I think because of the, like spin cycle yarns and the kind of fun marled yarns. So I've got a lot of these. And this fiber, this wool, is actually not from our Shetlands. I have, just like my yarn collection, I have a nice collection, a lovely curated collection of roving. And I used to belong to a Fiber of the Month club, and she sourced a lot of local New England and regional yarns, and some from other places too. So it was a great way for me to try a lot of different yarns when I was learning to spin different fibers, sheep's wool. So there's a lot of that fiber in here, but it's also some that I've collected from mostly regional, mostly from around New England when we've gone on vacations or whatever it has been. So I've been spinning a bunch of it up and offering it for sale because honestly I'm never going to knit through it in all my lifetime. So it's really fun. I love spinning, and not everybody spins, so I thought it'd be kind of fun to be able to offer some hand spun to people that might want a special skein to put in a project. And since there's so many great projects, Andrea Mowry has been doing a lot of patterns where you use a skein or two of a yarn that's like this, because she does use the spin cycle quite a lot, and that's kind of how they got their start. So they don't hand spin anymore, but so that this is going to be up in the shop. Not all of these colors I think are listed right now, but I will get these listed, and I'm always making more. I've actually got some on my wheel that I've got to apply, and I've got a bunch of other fiber that's all set aside for being spun into hand spun to sell in the shop. And I have the little tags on here that kind of explain it's not our yarn, but it's all hand spun by me here on the farm. The other thing that I have that's fun, if you're looking for a little gift or you just like stationery as much as I do, we actually did some cards of the different sheep, and these are all of the original sheep that we had on the farm. I have to have some cards made from some of the new sheep because I don't have any of the cards of them yet. So this is Miss Peregrine. This is when she was a little lamb, and she's the one that has the spots on her face. She's really cute. She's lightened up quite a bit from this, but she's really a lovely girl. And Miss Tilly, of course. That was Tilly after she was shorn in the fall, and she is just so funny. She follows me around like a little puppy dog. So we have the cards available for sale individually, or you can buy a box of these assorted cards, and it's 6 cards. And I'll link to this in show notes if you're interested. And there's a group of them out in the winter. This was the first winter they were here, so that was last year, well, actually 2020. And then there's Miss Jenny. So Mama Jenny, she's the one that had the twins on the farm last year. So she's pretty shy, but she's very regal. She's got such a pretty face. And then this is Sweet Pearl, and that's Peregrine's sister. You can see how very different they look. I'm trying not to get a whole lot of glare on there, but and we've got a lot of their pictures up on our website too, so if you want to check them out there, or our Instagram, and some of the new sheep are up there as well. And then of course another Tilly. So Tilly, this is actually a Tilly when she was let's see, she was probably about 5 months old. I think she was about 5 months old in here. So her and her twin sister, this is an interesting genetics thing, color genetics for Shetlands. Her and her twin sister Tara were born black, and they had just a few white hairs on their ears. So they were born completely black, really lovely jet black, and they both carry the fading gene. So in Shetlands and some other sheep as well, there's a fading gene, and so their faces and their legs are going to stay dark, but the rest of their body is going to keep fading and getting lighter. So, and it wasn't too long. You can see that already around her neck she had faded out quite a lot, and if you parted her fleece, it was really dark on the tips as a lamb, and then it was much lighter down towards her body, and you could see that split where it really started changing. So she is now looks quite a lot like Peregrine, with a dark face and a light body, but
very light gray.
Yeah, very light gray. Peregrine is actually a catmagget, so she is. She's got the black face, but she's black all the way down her chest and under her belly, all the way under her tail. So catmagget is another marking that is quite common in Shetland sheep. And I've got a couple catmaggets. I've got some gullmaggets as well, and so yeah. And it's really kind of funny because all of the a lot of the markings have the Shetland names, uses the traditional Shetland names, so some of them are really hard to pronounce, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing them correctly, but I give it a go, right? And listen to lots of podcasts about sheep in Scotland so that I can hear them say it and know how it's actually supposed to be said. So the other fun thing, it's not in the Fernbridge Farm shop, but it's in my Cranky Sheep shop. That's kind of fun to say. Are some of the sock kits that I've put together. So my other business, I have a sock knitting machine, and I crank out sock tubes that then customers can finish by putting their own heels, toes, and cuffs on them. And so you can get a custom pair of socks that will fit the length of your foot and will be as tall as you like them, because you're just going to put the heels, toes, and cuffs in. The other thing I do is I also will do custom cranking, where I'll take, customers will send me their yarn that they want to have cranked into tubes, and I will crank it into whatever size circumference that they want, based on the size that I have. I've got a 60 and a 72 currently. I'm actually probably going to be adding some more soon. I thought I'd show you some of the kits that I have available in the store right now. This is actually some Earth Yarns unique yarns, and they make 2 matching sock tubes. So they're identical, and actually their colors are a little bit different. There's so many great colors on these. So they're a lot of fun. So these are some of the ones that I have in stock right now, but I actually just got a big shipment of new yarns that I'm going to be cranking out soon. And so look forward to that in the shop, and I'll post about that too once I get to that point on my Cranky Sheep Instagram account. So I have a separate Instagram account for Cranky Sheep, a separate Facebook account, and a separate website. But I'll put all that information in show notes. If I hopefully will remember all the things I keep saying I'm going to put in show notes.
You're going to have to watch this back and take notes.
I know. So that's kind of what's in the shop. There's other things in there too, so feel free to have a peek at all the things that we've got in there. But that's kind of what I've got on the, well, I don't have the show notes in front of me, but I, kind of ran through things.
Yeah.
So, do you have anything else for today?
I don't think so. No, I think we covered most of what we covered in the episode you'll never see. And
the silent episode.
And the stuff that's come up since. So, no, that's good.
Awesome.
Great.
Well, thanks for joining us. Hopefully it will not be 3 weeks between this episode and the next episode. It wasn't going to be.
We really did do an episode.
We
after
did.
2 weeks.
We really did. Yeah. So I still have the footage I could put in, but I won't, because it's just a lot of us sitting here talking away and can't hear a darn thing. So. Anyway, that I think is all we've got for you this time, but we'll have more again in probably a week or 2, and we'll see you then. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye. There we go.
It's going to be podcasting.
Welcome to episode 2 of the Fernbridge Farm podcast with Bob and Willie. You coming over?
Outtake, Willie.
Why don't you sit in your own chair? You look like a people over there.
Willie, sit. I don't want to sit.
The little thing is moving, by the way.
Good. Turn the microphone on.